Hello, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a game called Lake of Voices. This is a visual novel, bit of a horror-themed thing, and the tagline was anyone can be saved, but not everyone can be. So there will be some difficult choices to make and an interesting story to tell or read. Let's go! You'll need to make various decisions throughout Lake of Voices. Here are a few details to keep in mind. Certain choices are timed. Time running out isn't something to completely avoid. In some cases, not getting involved can open new possibilities. Other choices aren't timed. These options only determine whether Kikka has any special affection for another character or not. If you survive until the second night, the story will branch into one of 5 different plotlines based on your earlier decisions. Ooh. The other characters cannot manage all situations in the various plotlines regardless of what you do. If a character isn't making it, try getting that plot with a different set of survivors or having the same group of characters venture through some other storyline. Becoming closer to someone can add and or remove future choice options and change how some scenes play out. Your decisions to build that connection may not go unnoticed by the other characters. Earning the full amount of affection with certain characters can require getting into specific plot lines. Alright. Let's go. My grip on my lantern tightens as the fog around us thickens. While the forests in this area are relatively safe compared to Sinnlos, I can't help but feel my hair standing on end the further we get. My free hand fingers the hilt of my sword, something akin to a nervous reflex.
Have you seen it before?
Bemel breaks the silence, either sensing my unease or assuaging his own. I hope it's the latter.
I haven't. I've had no reason to go near this cursed lake until now. What have you?
Bemel scratches his chin casually, as though I asked what his favorite food was.
I traveled a long way around it once before.
He's
Not
cute.
so pleasant. Something about it just frays your nerves. Although, even being near it is enough.
So I'm not the only one who feels it. A sense of relief hits me, but not enough to undo the buzzing of anxiety. The lake, Sinnlos. Most try their best to avoid it all their lives. The hundreds who die attempting to cross its unearthly black water, tracked to death by the creatures lurking within, aren't a secret.
No wonder you were assigned this mission.
There are a few who've had first-hand experience with the place, even if from a distance. He'll probably keep us picking whenever they need someone to cross, for however long he's with us. Wait, did I read that right? I probably did not. Bemel shrugs, bringing my attention back to the dark path before
At least
us.
we're taking the bridge this time. It'll only take 2 days instead of double that, and the sooner this place is behind us, the better.
It would be preferable not to risk it. But time is of the essence. We don't really have a choice.
Ooh. One of our allied villages, Hammer, is being harassed by brigadiers, a band of ruffians. We don't have many guards to send as an assist, only Bemel and myself. The least we can do is arrive before we are too late to be of any use. These kinds of squabbles happen often, but have to be put down lest they turn into a blood grudge or an all-out war. The last we heard, neither option was that far
I
off.
can also see why they chose you to come out here.
I glance at Bemel, eyebrow raised. A slight smile plays across his lips.
You're always so calm and so serious. Nothing can get to you. You're the best choice they had.
Oh, you. Flirting with me already. A smile now tugs at my own lips. I would like to thank him, but that wouldn't be so calm and serious as he just described. And if that's how he sees me, I'd like to keep it that way. My lack of reaction only makes his smile grow, and he chuckles a bit before focusing on the path. I do the same. It wouldn't be right to let my guard down in a place like this. The Mel appears to feel differently, however.
You know the town on the other side of the lake, though? It's not so similar to ours. If all goes well, perhaps we'll have enough time to enjoy the new area.
For the most part, I ignore him, nodding when applicable. Bemel is a talkative sort, and if chatting helps keep his worries down and his sword hand ready, I have no complaints. After a time, a thick fog surrounding us begins to clear. A sleek wooden dock comes into view, with it the sound of water gently lapping at its sides. Can I just say, the art style and the music are absolutely beautiful. Gorgeous game. I really like the piano music. God. Where were we? Bemel shifts beside me, stretching his lantern arm as far as it will go. He seems tense.
Someone's already here.
Oh. Hello. A young woman stands by the dock, eyeing us warily. Does she intend to cross tonight? Evidently, she has the same question. As we step up next to her, it's clear she isn't simply passing by. She's waiting. The stranger nods curtly to us.
Margaret.
Hello, Margaret.
Steadfast.
Bamele. Hello?
Wait, how did you pronounce your name? Bemele, I guess. Okay. And there's silence. Yeah, a stuffy silence at it. Margaret turns to gaze out across the lake, expression unclear. With not much to say, Bemele and I do the same. From here, the black surface of the lake looks disarmingly calm. Wind rushes across its surface, a sound like whispering. Though perhaps it actually is whispering. I concentrate, trying to place the difference, searching for breaks and rhythm. After a few seconds, I feel foolish. It doesn't matter what the noise is, whether I hear them or not. We are not alone. The Nixi are out there. A feeling that I can't quite shake tells me they've already noticed the little group of people on their shores. It feels hostile. My stomach sinks, and I instead address Bemele.
Where is the guide?
Unless he's on the center island, or on the complete other side, your guess is as good as mine. It's dark as pitch out there.
Panic rises inside me. Panic I try hard to
We
quell.
can't cross without him, and we need to get going soon.
You can't cross with him either.
Oh, why do you say that? The woman behind us, Margaret, cuts in with something like a snort.
What?
I know the guide will be here tonight. I have already made arrangements with him to cross.
Bemele and I share a look. The woman's is haughty and willing to put up a fuss.
I have his word he'll take me today. It would be wiser for the two of you to begin the trip around if you're really in such a hurry. Or you can make camp here and wait for him to make the trip back if you prefer.
I don't think that is an option. But I think I want to... Yeah. Raise the dialogue volume a little bit. There we go. I don't need to turn my attention to Bemele to know he's riled up. I step in before he can say something rash.
Even if that is so, my companion and I must begin the trip tonight.
Margaret is unimpressed and opens her mouth to argue further.
We'll wait for the guide to arrive before coming to a conclusion about any of this.
She clamps her mouth shut, then lets out a sigh.
You can do as you like.
With the matter tentatively settled, Bemele moves away. His finger begins to tap loudly against the top of his hilt. He shifts from one foot to another, then groans.
What's that bastard even up to?
I almost visibly start, but I manage to restrain myself because I'm a badass. He probably doesn't know any better. I'm sure of that. It's not worth mentioning.
With a mouth like that, you shouldn't even have the right to ask the guide to take you across.
How ludicrous. He's faced far worse than a bit of foul language.
Do you know anything that's happened with this lake?
I know enough.
Do you now? Well, Margaret is clearly not convinced, but she shrugs and makes a show of turning her back to him.
The guide's father is Garvin the Exemplar. Garvin never accepted the guide as his son, all the way up until he died in this lake. Your statement could be seen as tasteless.
Oh.
But Miller rubs the back of his neck, his face regretful.
My apologies to the guide. I didn't mean it that way. I never knew about his... well, that.
A smile spreads across my face, one I quickly wipe away. He really did just misspeak. The silence slowly stretches between the three of us, growing more awkward with each passing second. Margaret seems irritated and Bemel abashed. You're quite informed. I'm sure you are forgiven. I'm gonna say nothing. I enjoy the silence. We each remain locked inside our own thoughts, not another word passing between us. Eventually, a small light appears on the bridge ahead, gently swaying through the foggy air. It gets closer and closer until it becomes apparent it's a figure carrying a lantern. That must be the guide, although I can't shake the ghostly aura it gives off. The figure steps into the shore, but we wait for him to approach us instead of going to meet him. None of us are sure how close to the waters we can get before it's no longer safe. Hello. He stops in front of us and simply stares.
Are you the guide of Sinnlos?
The man nods. He has a sharp face and weary eyes.
Well, that's grand. We would like an escort across the lake.
Bemel motions the two of us, and Margaret approaches, a strange smile on her face.
Hello, it's good to see you again. I'm ready to cross, as we've agreed upon.
The guide turns to face her as well, face remaining unchanged. It must not be a lie. He would have had to say something otherwise. She really does have a preference to travel with him. That's a problem.
Is there a way we can all begin the trip tonight?
Yes, I will allow all three of you to go. But with that many, at least one will die before we reach the other side.
Well, isn't that grim? I furrow my brow. It's disturbing addendum, and one offered with a little emotion attached. Bemel glares back, asking without asking what we're supposed to do with such circumstances.
You should go around.
The sentence hangs in the air, the second half unspoken. If you want to live.
We don't have time for that. There are people counting on us for protection. Why does she need to go?
Don't be an asshole, mister. He jerks a finger at Margaret, whose face contorts with anger.
I don't need to explain myself to you. My journey has already been put off once, and I was promised I could go today. I will be going under any circumstances.
She meets Bemel's eyes with a gaze of steel. He starts to speak, and she cuts in.
An extra day or two shouldn't be that much of a problem for you. Whoever you're meeting can surely wait such a tiny amount longer. Patience is a virtue, after all.
The night is only so long, and if we're still on the bridges when the sun comes up, we'll all die as they sink back below the surface. If you don't decide soon, no one will be going.
The guide is dispassionate, stoic. I would almost feel something's wrong with him if I didn't share the trait myself. Bemel pulls me to the side, jaw clenched tight.
That woman isn't armed.
His voice is low. He darts a glance at Margaret.
We can easily get her to back off if we make this into an actual fight. After all, we have to go tonight, yes? If one of us really is to die, it'll be her. Would staying be a worse fate than her death?
What are you suggesting, mister? That we just murder her outright? No. I stare at the dock, refusing to meet Bemella's eyes, and try to keep my voice as level as possible.
We don't know her situation. This isn't a decision we can make for her.
What?
Bemella leans in closer, apparently having missed what I said. I remove the sympathy for her in my response when I speak again.
The guide won't accept something like that, I assume.
His face is grim.
Then what else do you have in mind?
First of all, you and I cannot split up. Either we both stay,
Why
or
can't
we
you split
both
up?
go.
Right. That's not a question.
I cross my arms, a hand on my chin. I have a full confidence in my abilities and in Bemella's, but there's no reason not to believe the guide knows exactly what he's talking about. If we go, he might not be able to give the group the attention we each deserve. That would mean we truly would be putting Margaret's life at risk on top of our own. Oh, this is the timed one. Say nothing. The guide approaches Bemella and I before I have time to sort out my thoughts.
You will stay.
What?
You would have already decided to come if you had the proper mindset for a journey such as this. You two will stay.
But you don't understand.
The guide raises the hand to me, ice cold. My words die in my throat. If he decides we aren't fit to cross, how could we persuade him otherwise?
This is bullshit! We are more than equipped to make this journey, and we know more of what it means to be in danger than most will know in all their life.
You two will stay.
Bemella's muscles tense, and I put a hand on his arm. He trembles slightly beneath my fingers, his hand curling themselves into fists. But he doesn't say another word. The guide turns around and heads onto the bridge. Margaret uncomfortably looks from the guide to us.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Then she steps onto the bridge after him. Bemella sighs, anger releasing from him as they disappear into the fog.
Farewell.
Be safe. We reached Hamer safely, though it took much longer than we would have liked. Much of the village had been damaged or even destroyed. Shit. It was my fault for taking so long. I did all I could to aid them in defending their town and repairing what could be salvaged. Bemella was disheartened by how little assistance we were able to provide. However, he could not deny how fortunate we were to have both made it at all, especially after we caught wind of the report given by the guide to the elders for that night. Every village close enough to Sinnlos gets informed on what occurs in the lake. He does so because communities wish to be made aware if they have lost one of their own. Did Margaret die? This time his news was death of a young woman, the one we spoke to. Margaret is gone. I have not heard nor seen the guide myself since then. I must assume he is still there on that foggy shore, waiting for desperate souls to seek out his light so they may cross the lake of true darkness. Although I regret that I was not able to do more to protect these people, no one admonishes me for it. They seem sure that I did everything possible. I hope that is true, even if I cannot bring myself to believe it. Soon Bemella and I will return home, and we will once again take the long way around. My one piece in all of this is that Sinnlos will be far behind me in a matter of days. I intend to keep it there. That's not going to happen, isn't it? This was just a prologue, right? No, wait, what? That was... Oh, okay, so I have to go. I don't have a choice to stay. Fine. Let's do this again, then. Skip
haven't.
all of this. Dun, 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 dun. I'm sure you're forgiven, Bemel.
I know you. You are brash but not intentionally cruel. I'm sure all is well.
Bemella smiles and claps me on the back.
You're a good woman, Kikka. Smart, too. You've never been here, yet you knew more of the guy than I did.
I know about Garvin, truthfully. Tales of his deeds were some of the only stories my parents ever told.
Is that so? You could tell me more about it sometime.
I'm badass. I pause, unsure how to respond to this type of request.
I would like that very much.
Oh, you're blushing, mister. Ooh. Interesting.
Yes, I wouldn't mind that. It must wait until after this trip, though.
Of course. We should drop this topic sooner rather than later, in any case.
I agree.
Even if there's no harm meant, hearing someone mention Graven is probably difficult for the guide, no matter what the circumstance. With the topic dropped, we each remained locked inside our own thoughts, not another word passing between us. And eventually the small light appears and we skip, and I believe we should go.
I believe you.
Bimele's reply is firm. My steadfastness seems almost weak in comparison to its certainty. Certainty? Yeah. He addresses the guide.
We shouldn't waste more time. Let's shove off.
The guide slowly turns around, without even a nod to show his agreement. Margaret stares at Bimele and me, something of a resolve in her gaze. Then she follows after the guide. At least she didn't insist we stay behind.
We should do what we can to protect her. It's our fault she's being put in even further danger.
Exactly my thoughts. We will take care of everything.
Do we now?
Maybe I'm being naive, but I have no intentions of letting anyone fall victim to this lake tonight. Those monsters can starve.
I smile at him for a change, and Bimele eagerly smiles back.
We're lucky to have each other in this, I think.
Ooh. He turns to follow the others across. I will protect everyone on this trip. We will make it through this. Then I step onto the dock and join them. Oh. As soon as I step onto the wood, the temperature drops. The light of my lamp shines against the water's surface, as reflective as a mirror. Until we reach land again, death is only one small mistake away. I should probably save. We fall into line with the guide leading the way. Margaret stays close to him and I behind her, watching to make sure she doesn't slip on the slick, wet wood. Bimele brings up the rear. Each of us hold our lanterns in front of us, but it does little good. The fog is thick and nigh impenetrable, consuming the light as if hungry for it. Above the surface of the lake, it's deadly quiet. No longer is there the whispering wind, nor the sound of water lapping against the shore. It's just our own mismatched footsteps and the sound of my quickening breathing. My eyes drift back to the lake, against my better judgment. It's no wonder there is not even the sound of water, with how still the surface is. It seems almost sturdy, with the sheen of black marble floor. I've heard rumors of the waters of Sinnlos is heavier, more difficult to disturb than natural water. That's just the weight of its oppressive cling. Is enough to keep someone down, even without them. Something even darker than the abyss of the lake flickers just below the surface, or at least I think it does. I turn my gaze to Margaret's back. It's better to stay focused. Funny notice, the music is very calm, very kind of relaxing, almost like a sleepy, very beautiful melody. But then the text is actually rather dark, so there's kind of a mismatch. Yeah, like the mood of the music and the mood of the text don't quite match up to each other, and it's interesting. It creates this very, very unreal feel to this, and I like it. I really do. Compare this to, for example, Silence the House, where the music was very intentionally spooky and intense from the very get-go. So it I don't know the word right now, but yeah, it made it really clear that this is a horror game, whereas this, if I didn't know there was a horror element to it, it wouldn't be as obvious. Okay, moving on.
Fall back a bit. You're following me too closely.
The guide is looking over his shoulder, addressing Margaret.
I'm sorry.
If someone gets pulled into the lake, they'll instinctively reach for anything to hold on to. Do not let that be you.
Margaret's shoulders rise and she nods with great seriousness.
I understand. Thank you for the advice.
He ignores her gratitude.
You can speak amongst yourselves if you so choose, as long as you pay attention to where you're going. There is no worth in listening to the sounds out there. If there's anything at all, it'll only be Nixi trying to set you on edge.
All right. Then, could you tell us your name? You didn't have a chance to properly introduce yourself, and I've only heard you being referred to as the guide.
I don't have a name.
Oh. That's kind of sad. He's facing the front again, his voice as expressionless as before. I have no way of guessing how he feels as he says this.
Oh.
It's probably not something he wishes to talk about. However, there was something else I wanted to say, so changing the subject is not difficult.
Margaret, thank you for allowing us to join you.
Margaret shrugs non-committedly.
It wasn't exactly up to me. The guide said he would take you.
She hesitates, and then she looks tentatively over her shoulder at me.
But thank you for saying that. It's appreciated.
You're welcome, honey.
Bemele and I will do our best to be an asset on this trip, rather than a burden.
The Malay. Okay, thank you.
That's nice. I'm not afraid to be out here, though. Still, at least with your training, you should be able to take care of yourselves.
Mm-hmm. It's comforting to know that everyone here is so confident in their abilities, not enough to forget how terrible it feels to be over this lake. I'm not sure if that is fortunate or unfortunate. Believing yourself to be secure doesn't mean that you are. As the conversation lulls, a new sound breaks through. It's the whispering noise again. It's the chatter of inhuman voices. And this time coming from all around us.
Taking care of yourself is exactly what you need to do.
The guide is speaking again, except louder, as if to cover the Nixi's voice with his own.
Work to survive at all costs, and hope that everyone around you has enough sense to do the same. That's the only way you'll make it to the other side.
Margaret nods in response, but I hear a grunt from behind me.
Groups tend to go further when they work together to achieve the same goal.
The guide doesn't say anything in response to Bemele's grumbling either. I'm not sure whether he didn't hear Bemele or whether he just didn't feel the statements made thus far are worthy of addressing. I have a feeling it's the latter. We go around a large bend in the bridge, part of it forking off to another way. I wonder how the guide knows which one of these essentially identical paths is correct when something in the corner of my eye catches my attention.
I believe I saw something over there.
Keep walking. No need to worry.
The guide's voice is calm and level. I decide against pressing the issue, not wanting to set everyone even more on edge.
What did he say?
Perhaps not wanting the conversation to be caught by the guide, he speaks softly, though I couldn't quite hear him because of it. I take my eyes off Margaret ahead for a moment to explain it to Bemel and stop dead on my tracks. Only one word is able to escape me in my stunned state.
Behind.
Oh, there's a dude there! Behind Bemele stands another figure, looming in the darkness. Seeing my face, Bemele grabs the hilt of his sword. He whips around, then staggers swiftly backwards. Several meters away, a crooked, twisted black figure hobbles its way towards us. Some kind of liquid drips off its head, curling around the edges of its face. It almost looks like it's crying. Bemele backs up until he is standing beside me. The figure continues its slow advance, head jerking from one angle to another.
What on earth?
It's one of them.
Yes, Nixi that stumble across the bridges looking for opportunities.
The guide is standing next to us. I didn't even notice him approach.
The ones that can make it out of the water are generally referred to as prowlers.
Okay.
I had no idea things like that were out here. Is that what Kikka saw down the other path?
The guide says nothing, instead returning to the front of the party. Margaret watches him pass. Her frustration morphs into nervous optimism when something seems to come into her mind.
Well, Nixi aren't slowed down much by swords, but at least the light keeps them away, right?
Margaret's hand grips her face tight, and desperation bleeds into her voice. I bite the inside of my lip.
Direct light will force it to return to the lake. However, it'll try to drag the light, or you, down with it before it goes.
Instinctively, I reach for the hilt of my sword, despite the fact that it would do little to protect me. The prowler is getting close, jerking forward, stopping, and then resuming its slow advance.
Okay. Does anyone have a light we can leave here? That way it won't follow us.
Oh, you're a smart one, aren't you?
Only matches.
Bemela spits. He is the one bringing up the rear, so he's the one most likely to be in danger if he keeps following. The guide, however, moves forward.
Don't forget it's there, don't let your guard down, and don't get left behind.
What? How am I supposed to keep walking with this thing at my heels? You said it wants to attack.
Don't give it the chance.
Bemela sputters in anger, and the guide summarily ignores him. I solidly grab hold of Bemela's upper arm.
Here, I'll lead you like this, and you can keep your focus solely on the prowler. Make sure it doesn't get too close.
Bemela eyes the guide with unresolved hostility, but allows himself to softly sigh in relief. He gazes at me with fondness.
At least there's someone I can count on.
Despite the fact I'm going against his advice, the guide says nothing more. It's clear now that he doesn't give a damn what we end up doing. Some part of me is glad for that. I want to help everyone make it through, and it would be worse to have to persuade the guide every time help was necessary.
Kikka, thank you.
You're welcome, honey. Bemela places a gentle hand on my shoulder. Not seriously, obviously. He likes me when I'm serious. Bemela's face hardens in return. He moves his free arm down. I fully link his arm with mine, and now properly settled, look forward. Margaret is following the guide with some reluctance, turning back every so often to check on us. I wave my lantern to signal we're catching up. Margaret returns her head to the front and quickens her pace. With a tug on Bemela, we start to follow them. In a way, was I supposed to be all romantic at that point? I don't know. The four of us continue cautiously over the bridges. Only this time, the wet, squishing footsteps of the prowler join the sound of our own. In spite of myself, I grip Bemela tighter. The prowler walks without a set pattern. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. It takes long steps, then short ones. At times, it stops walking entirely. Does it hurt to be out of the water like this, or is it trying to be difficult to read? Suddenly, the whispering in the lake grows louder. I steel myself, trying not to let it get to me. The most important thing in a situation like this is to remain calm. I can't lose my head. Then, all at once, I notice the guide and Margaret have come to a halt.
Bemele, they're stopping.
Bemele slows down as I do, and as we near Margaret's back, she says something with akin to distress.
There's another one.
I tug on Bemele and he understands. We draw up close to Margaret, ready to protect her if need be, but the guide holds out a hand.
Don't get any closer.
Just over his shoulder, I see another prowler stumbling up towards us, white liquid dripping from its eyes. The guide's hand turns over in the air, palm up.
Give me a lantern. We'll throw it.
Margaret extends her own with a trembling hand when Bemele speaks instead, his back still turned.
If you have to take someone's, take mine.
Yes, an extra light won't do us much good when we're standing this close together.
Margaret takes Bemela's lantern from him, guarded relief displayed on her features.
Thank you.
She hands the lantern to the guide, whose hand grips it tightly, knuckles growing pale.
Stay here. I can't throw it too far. The light will blow out before it reaches the Nix.
Your proportions are all weird. He steps closer to the monster, his movements light and confident. As he nears, the prowler starts to back away. Is it only the approaching light that's making it retreat, or are they afraid of him? The guide is far enough away from us that the fog is partially obscuring him, hiding his movements. The voices from the lake grow louder and louder. Water suddenly begins to splash across the lake in the distance and onto the edges of the bridge. They want him to mess up, sorry. I don't notice how tense I am until Bamela eases my grasp on his arm. Then, suddenly, the guide takes multiple long and fast strides forward, throws the lantern, and jumps backwards to regain the long distance. Shh. Bloop. There's a sharp hiss and then deep splash, and the voices of the Nixi grow quieter. Not silent, but quieter. A sigh escapes me, and the guide comes back to our group.
We should keep going, before it comes back.
I glance at Bamela and realize he, too, is looking relieved at the guide before us. And then I see it. Ugh! The first prowler. It's still there. It's right there. Oh, pull Bamela forward. I shift around, pulling Bamela behind me. The prowler lunges after him, barely missing Bamela, but striking my lantern instead. The fire goes out, and the two of us are plunged into an unearthly darkness. Then there's a slick splash. I realize the Nyx has retreated into water. Somehow, Bamela and I are still standing. We're still here.
Kikka, thank you.
What happened? I can't respond. Something cold, wet, and slimy has grabbed my ankle. Ah, kick it off! I kick my leg out as fast as I can, and the Nyx's hold slips. I can't pull with the momentum I've gained against it. Margaret rushes to my side, her lantern hanging out towards the Nyx. The light brushes its face, and we see for an instant its eyes wide, and then it slides back into the smooth surface of the water. Alright, good job. Bamela grabs Margaret and I, both helping us towards the center of the bridge and cussing under his breath.
I only looked away for 1 second.
It's fine, Bamele. We're all fine.
Are you actually alright?
No, not really. Margaret cocks her head down, examining my ankle, but there's nothing but a wet smudge around my trousers.
I am fine.
We don't have a light. I say that, though I don't actually want to let go of the melee. I need to, in order to relight our lantern and provide us actual safety, but I feel such a strong desire not to be alone in this moment. I shake my head roughly and let him go, relighting the lantern as fast as I'm able.
Kikka, thank you. Again. You saved my life. I won't let this happen again.
Yes. Yes. It would be good for all of us to pay more attention.
Margaret nods solemnly. And suddenly, it seems like we're all on the same side. It isn't only Bamela and I. She is with us in more than simply presence. The guide's voice, as cold as the monster's grasp, ends my train of thought.
We lost the lantern I threw. The Nyx grabbed it after the light went out.
Margaret makes a noise. I glanced over, wondering whether she's upset, but there's a small smile on her face instead.
It's better than them taking anything else.
True. A nervous laughter bubbles out of me, and just as quickly stops. Bamela chuckles in response, and our collective tension eases up, the adrenaline draining from our bodies. Well, get moving!
We need to keep walking.
Yeah, thank you. The guide starts down the bridge again, and we join him. I try to clamp down on the relief, the ease that wants to flood my head. It's not over. The prowler is gone, but so is Bamela's lantern.
You can stay near me, Bamele, since your lantern is lost.
I appreciate it.
Margaret goes on ahead of us. Bamela stays by my side as I keep at the end of the line. The breath of release for Margaret and Bamela is quickly swallowed by the somber atmosphere of Sinnlos as well, replaced by the gravity of the near-death experience. Never mind celebrating his survival. Something like that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The memory of the prowlers reaching out towards us appears each time I close my
Why
eyes.
does it look like something's dripping down their faces?
The prowlers are in Margaret's mind too. Looking at her pained expression, it's as though the moment of relief never existed at all.
I'm not sure.
Me neither. Something's wrong with them, though. They live in water. Air shouldn't be good for the things, but they want to drown humans so much they're willing to drag themselves around on land? It's not right.
Of course it isn't. They're monsters. They likely do not understand even the concept of right and wrong.
Well, I don't disagree that there's something very wrong about them. I truly hope that's the last we'll see of the prowlers.
Famous last words, my dear. Something comes to her mind, causing Margaret to end her part of the conversation early.
Since you two have to share a light, wouldn't it be safer to be in the middle?
Margaret stops and waits for Bimele and I to reach her position.
That way, you'll catch the edges of my light and the guides, and it won't be so dangerous if Bimele loses his position momentarily.
That's a very kind offer, Margaret.
Bimele's surprise is so apparent I want to cover his face with my hands to stop him from insulting her. She merely smirks. I think Margaret may be surprised with herself too. Bimele returns to his usual surety.
As thoughtful as it is, I, at least, am fine with bringing up the rear. I'm used to keeping watch for monsters, and since there are two of us, I can pay attention to the back while Kikka focuses ahead. It's not my light, though, so I shouldn't be the one to decide what she should do with it.
Margaret and Bimele turn to look at me in unison. Seems like it's my decision. Neither of them are wrong. As for me, my goal is to protect everyone. I can't very well do that with Margaret following behind us. But being stuck in the middle of the group could also be dangerous depending on what circumstances we come across. Getting pincered by the enemy would be an almost sure death, no matter how experienced Bimele and I are. I just don't know what to expect from this bridge, and that makes things so much more difficult. The current format has worked.
Behind?
Yeah, after all, we are soldiers, or fighters of some sort, so it's better if you stay near the guide who also knows his way around this bridge.
Seems like it.
Yes, I think we'll be good here. But really, thank you. That was a very kind offer.
Well, alright.
Margaret respects our decision and trots ahead a bit to catch up with the guide, he who has paid no mind to the entire affair.
So,
What do you
I
want?
don't want to sound like a child, but how much longer until we arrive at the halfway point?
Are we there yet? Margaret chuckles, reflecting the amusement I don't want to vocalize.
We still have some ways to go.
Damn.
I suppress my laughter yet again at his pouting response. The gloom we've been under dissipates slightly, like a light flickering through the fog.
The first trial tends to be the most difficult. I believe we will only react better from this point on.
I like the way you think.
Then a gleam enters Bimele's eyes, and he grins.
I think Kikka deserves a round of applause. Her quick reflexes are owed the utmost appreciation.
He leans softly into my shoulder, trying to get me to... What?
It was indeed a sight. You're quite capable. Bimele was also a sight, but for very different reasons. The way he froze with his mouth all agape was a laugh in itself.
Bimele shakes a fist at Margaret in mock anger, then shoots me with an affectionate look.
You should know, she and I are usually on equal footing.
The only reason you had footing at all is because she pulled you back.
Bimele laughs self-consciously, scratching his head.
That's very true. You can always count on Kikka.
I keep my eyes steadily ahead, unsure how I should respond. I'm pleased, almost grateful to hear what they think of me. Aww. But I don't know what I could say that wouldn't seem pathetic. Instead, I contribute the best way I can. I keep my focus on the path ahead of us. Without a response from me, the conversation quickly dies out. Still, it eases my heart to be on such friendly terms with my companions. After some time, I noticed Margaret isn't keeping up with the guide as much as she was before. I realize it's because the guide has increased his pace. Margaret begins to jog in an effort to keep up with him, and Pamela and I do the same. Despite this, the guide keeps getting further away. We go faster and faster until suddenly we're full-on sprinting across the slick wooden boards. Figures in the dark fog fly past us in blur, and it occurs to me the branching paths in the bridge appear to be sinking. I try hard to swallow my rising panic. The guide shouts something, but it's drowned out by the frantic pounding of our footsteps. I'm trying to piece together what he said. Don't stop. Turn, when he takes a massively sharp right down the different path, using his own momentum and the sleek wood to slide into the new direction with no loss of speed. Apparently he's a badass also. Margaret must have not worked out the warning either, as she's completely caught off guard by the guide's changed in course. She runs straight ahead, past the turn, and continues down the path we've been following up until now. She clumsily begins to hold her momentum down the wrong bridge. Then I come up the fork. Turn! I make a hard turn, following the guide and leaving Margaret at the rear. Pamela's footsteps stay as loud as they were before. He's made a turn, as close behind me as ever. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Margaret turn around to try and come back to us, only to have the bridge in front of her fall away. I slow down for a breath, feeling the impulse to turn back, but ignore it. There's no time. Margaret can make the jump and then she'll rejoin us. I keep my eyes glued to the guy's back, ears perked for Margaret's footsteps approaching behind us. And then I hear it. A scream. I whip around, sliding to a stop. Margaret is sinking. The bridge she's on is sinking into the water. She's disappearing. She didn't jump.
What are you doing?
Margaret's head shoots up, her face drained of all color.
Jump!
She stumbles near the edge of the bridge, staring at the placid water of the lake. Even from the distance, I can see her shaking. I can't say if it's from the bridge's descent or her own fear. She barely seems to remain standing. I swallow painfully. Margaret bends and tries to jump. She curves in a small arc, achieving more height than she should, and lands directly in the lake with muted splash. Bemeles starts beside me, but I grab his hand and pull. We start running again, leaving Margaret flailing in the water behind us. We don't need to watch this. We both know exactly what will happen to her now. Margaret's anguished cries pierce the night, then the screaming stops. My legs grow weak. It isn't right. I push myself to keep going. Bemele curses between heavy breaths, calling those things every foul name in his large book. I try to focus on the pounding of my feet, but my brain won't cooperate. Instead, I imagine Margaret's terror as she's clawed to pieces by the Nixi. After everything I didn't help her, we left her in the dark. As the night wears on, our strength rapidly fades. How much longer will this last? People have to rest sometime. Almost as if in response to my thought, the quiet abruptly halts. I skid to a stop as well, sliding on the surface of the wood.
Why did we stop?
Bemele's voice is tired, but his guard is up. The guide doesn't answer, just stares something slightly out of view. I step up to join him, following his gaze further down the path. Hello, who are you then? There, curled in a little ball, illuminated by the lantern's light, covers a person. His hands grip his head, and he rocks from side to side, mumbling incoherently.
It's a man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm struck with an array of questions. What is going on? Why would he wander out into these breaches on his own? Did he make it this far by himself? Were there others with him? If that's somehow the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above him, seemingly only just now having the strength to lift his head. His expression, the deepest sadness, along with the clear markings of terror, are scrawled across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
I snap my eyes away from the man and instead to the guide's cold, impeccable face. Implacable.
No! We can't just leave him here. Without light, it's certain he'll die.
He won't make it regardless.
You seem sure of it. The guide turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I glance at my partner. Bemilla is outraged. I'm trying to think of some kind of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges. I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
Well, shit. Adrenaline surges through my veins, and I tense up. It's a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, but merely to show us the way. We're on our own. Bemilla and I frantically share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. Neither of us have the desire to speak and be the first to make the choice. The man is standing now, though still hunched, with his arms wrapped around himself as if expecting a blow. He stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to him?
Are you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone.
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you. But that's not how things always go. Doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's response is meandering. The words themselves seem to be in a good jest, but he's still barely looking at us, fidgeting with his hand. Bemilla frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first time.
What part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You sure?
You have found yourself out alone and unlit on Sinnlos.
Exactly. Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no, sounds like you've been talking with my father.
He lets out a weak little laugh, coupled with an eyebrow raise, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. The man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Bemilla huffs, tossing his hands into the air.
That's not even the right way.
It is for me.
Wait, are you? Just... What?
Oh? You must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore you started on.
The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There's no response to this remark, unsure of what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
I look over the man's body, noting the scrawniness of his limbs. Scrawny, but not necessarily lacking any muscle. The bravado he was showing as he tried to leave us has faded yet again, and now he's standing quietly, looking at us as if watching a play. Interest, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering? It's not mine. and you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Bemilla's hands turn into fists. He looks away, but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared comes to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another. Why must he get involved now? Why can he not leave us to make our own decisions?
You... Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something I cannot place, and he starts to shuffle back down the way we came, arms still clenched around him. I know the guide wants to act as though there is no option, however, I could stay back with him. I'll put Bemilla and myself at significantly more risk, but at least this man will stand a chance. Oh crap, he's going to kill himself, isn't he? But I want to get back to, across the bridge for now. I can't risk it. Bemilla stares at the man as he leaves. We both watch him drag his little frame down the bridge, quickly fading from sight. We had to let him go. We've already suffered the loss of one of our own. The space the man vanishes into is dark and silent. We can see and hear nothing of him, not even his footsteps. The guide was right. There are no other options. Well, that is what I have to believe. We need to get through this somehow, and begin way down with guilt will only distract us. The guide starts moving again at a quick pace. After a moment's hesitation and one last glance into the truly lifeless fog, we run to catch up to him. We walk onwards in silence. Our party hasn't changed. The stranger was never added to it, so it's not as if it makes sense to miss him. But there's a sense of loss all the same. No one even attempts mirth. I keep thinking I should have done more. Should have pushed the guide harder to change his mind so it was less dangerous to keep the man around. Something. Anything. But I have to let this go. I'm not going to forget that man. I will never forget him. But we still need to get through this. I curl my hands into fists, hoping it'll strengthen my resolve. Then I push forward. We turn down a different path. Then the guide stops. Hello again. Ahead of us stands a group of prowlers. At the sound of us, they turn their heads in unison. Whoosh. As if they knew we were coming. I inhale. The prowlers wriggle somehow, their skin moving more slowly than it should, sliding across their skeletons. They laugh.
We cannot lose another lantern at this point. We're almost to the island.
The guide rummages through his coat with his free hand.
What are you planning?
Good question. Bemilla's tone is borderline threatening, but the guide ignores him. He pulls out a small pouch, then opens the latch on his lantern.
Wait, are you going to throw that at them? What if the bridge sets on fire?
It will. We're going to run.
This is insane! These bridges are hellish enough without them also being on fire. And what about
Sorry.
the other man? If he's still out there, this could...
He's dead. We're not losing another lantern.
He says it with such detached certainty. It's as if he saw it happen himself. No one argues with him. The guide steps closer to the prowlers. We fall in to step behind him, staying close to his back. He bends his lantern back down until it's lowered to his outstretched arm. The pouch in his hand is set aflame. With a practiced flick of the wrist, he swings the staff back and up. The glass of the lantern snaps closed.
Don't get left behind.
Okay, we won't. He takes 3 quick steps, then tosses the pouch. The prowlers are back in the water before the pouch even lands. As soon as it does, the fire starts to lick and curl itself around the wood. The guide breaks into a sprint, and so do the rest of us. The blaze grows, despite the heavy dampness from the lake. These bridges aren't normal bridges. Of course, that's true. Nothing here is right. Hopefully they won't collapse with the flames. We stay on the guide's heels, almost too close for comfort. If he stops abruptly, we'll all crash into one another, maybe even fall off the bridge. Then the world tilts. I was mid-stride when I put my foot down. The bridge isn't where it was. It lurches to one side, either because it was weakened or pushed. Bemele and I managed to keep our ground, as does the guide. He presses on without even bothering to see if we were able to follow. Bemele growls in frustration as we push to keep up with the guide's pace. As our storm of feet thunders across the boards, the sliver begins to rise into view just above the edge of the water.
It's the island.
The island? I squint and suddenly make out the craggy forms of land and earth. I see it. We're almost there. Safety at long last in sight. New energy surges through me. We push ourselves faster, longing to put these godforsaken bridges behind our backs. All at once the bridge ends, and our entire group rushes ashore. Earth, solid earth, a haven from water. I catch my breath, still moving even further away from the dark shoreline. I can't believe we actually made it. Even more difficult is the idea that we're only halfway done. When the night falls once more, we have to do it all again. A heavy arm falls across my shoulders, and I straighten to see Bemele smiling wearily at me.
Good work out there.
It's not the usual commendation of a job well done. There's sadness, perhaps even sympathy in the sentence. It ends flatly. Usually Bemele's comfort and good nature gives me at least the urge to smile, but right now it feels like a hollow victory. Despite still having the comfort of one another, we were incapable of doing any true good. We were only able to save ourselves. A quiet moment passes between us. And then the guide is there. He moves so smoothly that his steps on the soft sand are nearly silent, and his dusky clothes blend with the thinning of the night.
The sun will rise soon. The fire on the bridge is the only reason this island isn't overrun with prowlers right now. However, they could still pose a threat.
Bemele levels an empty look towards the guide.
Is there something we should do?
Come, he says. For some reason there wasn't the voice acting there. The guide takes us to an area a bit further island inland, but not too far from the water. Trees partially obscure our location, and there is enough room to watch the coast in case prowlers start to emerge from the water. Essentially, it's a place where an ambush would be hard.
If any of you see anything at all, speak up. We don't want them to sneak up on us.
Almost automatically, each member of the group turns to a different direction. As the sky continues to fade, from pale purple to a muted blue, the water stays silent. For the first time, nothing happens. It's a miracle. Suddenly, my chest is lighter and the air is fresher. The first pricks of light appear over the horizon, stinging my eyes after such a long journey through darkness. The sound catches my attention, and I move my focus towards its direction. The guide is opening the latch of his lantern again. He gently, almost respectfully, blows out the light.
We no longer have to worry about the Nixi. It is over for today.
How lovely. Okay, I'm going to leave this episode of Lake of Voices right here. This seems interesting, and yeah, well, there wasn't never a way to save everyone, but perhaps we should have told Margaret to stay in the back so she would have seen us turning as well. I don't know. We're all gonna die eventually anyway. So, thank you so much for watching this one. Oh, God, I love this music. I hope you're having a great day. If you liked this, let me know. That was a part I missed there. Yeah. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you again next time.